Good afternoon and welcome very much to Maine Health Management Coalition's webinar today. We will be talking about recruiting, retaining, and supporting Maine's aging workforce today. Before we delve in, I'll introduce myself. I'm Marie Stuckey. I'm the Member Relations Specialist here, and I want to thank Lorrie Parham with AARP for joining us. She's actually on our board, so we're really excited to have her here, and she's in the room with us instead of attending virtually, which is kind of fun. We are going to go through a little bit about the coalition for those of you who are joining us who are not familiar with us, and then a little bit about some upcoming events, and then I will introduce Lorrie. Please be aware that the presentation will be available and the slides on our website after we're done here. If you have questions during the webinar that you think of, please use the chat box at the bottom of your screen to type those in, and I'll relay them to Lorrie at the end of her presentation. Also want to mention to you that there are handouts that she's provided that you can see on your screen, which she might address for you. And finally, there will be a survey that we would love for you to fill out to let us know how the webinar assisted you, how we might do better next time, and other topics of interest for the future. So right now, I just want to let you know that we are an organization of over 80 members comprised of 5 multi-stakeholder groups, including consumer organizations that serve the community, purchasers of healthcare, a group for health plans, brokers, and benefit consultants, providers who actually provide the care, and then affiliate members who support our cause but don't fit in neatly into any of the other categories. We are a nonprofit purchaser-led partnership among multiple stakeholders. We work collaboratively to improve the health and maximize the value of healthcare services for the employees and dependents of our members and all residents of Maine. So we accomplish this in 5 key ways, the first of which is through our great data department that has all the state's health benefit claims and is able to benchmark and analyze data based on all those claims. We also provide to the entire state transparency through publicly reporting the outcome, safety, patient experience, and cost ratings for the care of adults and pediatrics on our website, Get Better Maine. We also accomplish our initiatives through member and consumer engagement, through different initiatives we've done in the past, like book clubs or providing resources to people so that they can get the be their best person to support their own health. We also work on benefit design by supporting the patient through reimbursement incentives that reward the use of high-quality patient-centered care. And finally, we work on payment reform, where we explore alternative payment arrangements with providers to also provide and make sure we've got the best quality patient-centered care at a reasonable cost. So some upcoming meetings that our members may want to be aware of. The first one is actually tomorrow. We're very excited about this. It is going to focus on specialty pharmacy spend, and I hope you can join us. It's not too late to sign up if you're interested in that. Next several meetings listed there are our Pathways to Excellence group, where they are working on the background of the Get Better Maine public reporting website. So we're talking about women's health. There's a panel discussion and an oncology work group. You see the dates there. Then we have an ACI steering committee meeting on May 17th, followed by another Pathways to Excellence meeting on orthopedic care, and finally finance committee and healthcare cost work group meeting. So for those of you who are not very familiar with the coalition, here are just some ways that to let you know a little bit more about what we do. We identify the best practices in health plan design and workplace wellness. We assess custom analytics to make, we give you access basically to custom analytics so you can make smarter decisions about your plan. We provide a guide to high quality, reasonably priced healthcare related services. Being a member of our organization brands your organization as a pioneer in support of Maine's health and economy. And being a member also provides you great networking opportunities and valuable connections. You also have the opportunity through those work groups and committees that I mentioned on the previous slide to influence some of the change and how you think it should take place in this state in terms of healthcare value. Some specific events we do are our big annual symposium. That's going to take place October 27th this year, and our members receive a complimentary registration to that. We also have a member newsletter. Webcasts such as this are free to members. We have other meetings such as learning summits and pilot programs and discounts just for members. So mark your calendars if you're interested in any of the next 2 webinars that are planned for on May 18th. We have Improving Population Health Outcomes Through Better Nutrition. That's going to be a case study from the Jackson Labs. And then on the 25th of May, we will be providing education on the financial and legal guidelines of a successful wellness program. And that particular webcast is approved for HR credit. This slide just shows you some of our fantastic members that are a part of our organization. And with that, I am very excited to introduce Lorrie Parham, the Maine State Director of AARP. She is, in that role, she leads the state advocacy and education efforts on health and financial security issues statewide. She began her career at AARP in Florida. Before becoming Florida State Director in 2007, she served as Manager of Advocacy and was responsible for policy and legislative advocacy. She has extensive knowledge of health and long-term care issues, and before joining AARP, she served as a legislative analyst for the Florida Senate, providing technical expertise to the Committee on Health, Aging, and Long-Term Care. Lorrie also served as staff for the Florida Agency for Healthcare Administration, focusing on long-term care issues. And prior to her work there, she worked at Florida State University Pepper Institute on Aging, where she was involved in multiple research projects on long-term care. So currently, Lorrie oversees AARP Maine efforts to engage cities and towns in creating livable communities for people of all ages, with a specific focus on economic development and aging in place. She has a BA in sociology from Belmont Abbey College, as well as an MS and PhD with a specialization in political economy and aging from the Florida State University. She sits on the boards of Avesta, Housing, and ITN America, as well as our board. And we are really excited to have her here today. So welcome, Lorrie. We're so glad you're here.
Great to be here. And I'm looking forward to the presentation and the conversation with the webinar participants. With that, we'll get started. Today, I will cover the changing work landscape, why AARP is engaged in issues around workforce, the business case for 50-plus workers, and then we'll look at Maine and profile a Maine company that has had great success with recruitment and retention of 50-plus workers. And then I'll share some information and tips on what you can do to leverage the 50-plus workforce and share our resources. And as Marie said, a lot of the materials are available for you to download from the webinar today. And then if you had any other questions around materials, you're welcome to follow up after the webinar. So as you may have recognized, the landscape of work is changing. For the first time in modern history, demographics now cover 4 generations. And if you're managing this, you know your employees tend to have different work styles and value different things, and they may also bring different skills to the table across the areas of your work. So let's take a quick look at those 4 generations. And yes, I'm generalizing a little bit, but this is based on data and tracking. First, we've got the traditionalists born before 1945, also called the World War II generation, currently 4% of the workforce. Their motivation tends to be satisfaction of a job well done, and they're rewarded with tangible symbols of, and we should be rewarding them with tangible symbols of loyalty, commitment and service, and connecting their actions to the success of the organization. So a real commitment to the organization. For boomers born between 1946 and 1964, currently 31% of the workforce, their motivation tends to be money, title, and recognition. And they're rewarded with things that elevate their status, the corner office, the prime parking space, etc. The Gen Xers born between 1965 and 1980, also called the baby busters generation, and post-boomers comprise 32% of the workforce. Their motivation, freedom. Reward them with paid time off, flexible work options, relaxed dress codes. I must admit I like those things. Gen Y, also called millennials or the echo boomers. The millennials are the children of the boomers, born between 1980 and 2000. Their motivation, work that has meaning, reward them with instant feedback, gift cards, resume building projects, work teams where they can contribute to organizational outcomes. So the idea is to capitalize on what each brings to the table and not to use a one-size-fits-all talent management approach. And the information I just shared, as I mentioned, while may not fit every single person in those categories, has come from Gallup tracking of what different age workers want, and specific research done by Bridgeworks Consulting. So overall, those are things to look at across the generations. Interestingly enough, despite what's happening in the workforce, a SHRM, a Society for Human Resource Management study found that just over 1/3 of respondents have actually conducted strategic workforce planning to analyze the impact of their organizations of the changes in generational workforce issues. So there's still a lot of work to be done to really prepare for the shift that's coming. So why AARP? First, we're no longer the American Association of Retired Persons. We are just AARP. And that's because a large number of our members across the country are still working, and that's true here in Maine as well. Around 30% of our members are still working. Post-recession, many are working longer and looking to go back to work. Savings rates for the boomers are abysmal, and the Great Recession didn't help the boomers and the greatest generation. So folks who thought they were in good shape are finding that they are having to get back to work. So our vision is that experienced workers have the skills to prosper in the job market, and that society embraces and benefits from experienced individuals in the workforce. And we do this by focusing on two key strategies: equipping workers 50+ with skills and resources that will help them leverage their competitive advantage in the workforce, and engage in an ongoing dialogue with employers to understand their business challenges and their needs and provide support and feedback where we can. Now, I'd like to go into a report that we recently released last year, a business case for workers age 50+. We commissioned Aon Hewitt on this, and it's actually an update to a study we originally released in 2005. The results support the earlier findings, so the trends are the same from the original report, and show the business case for hiring and retaining workers 50+. The support has grown even stronger in the last 10 years. We found that 50+ talent is a key ingredient in a high-performing workforce. Given the declining proportion of younger workers and projected talent shortages that we have heard about from the Society for Human Resource Management, many employers are turning to 50+ workers to achieve and maintain a competitive edge. The business case lays out many points and shows that 50+ workers bring experience and engagement, maturity and professionalism, a strong work ethic, loyalty to their employer, reliability, knowledge and understanding of a broad range of issues, and also the ability to serve as mentors and bring the next group of employees along. They're also less likely than younger workers to leave the job unexpectedly, which can help employers manage turnover and related costs. So now we're going to go into some of the findings more deeply. From 2002 to 2022, the number of workers aged 50 plus is expected to increase 62%. And by 2022, the 50 plus will constitute 35% of the workforce. That's more than a third of the workforce. People are retiring later and we're living longer. Retirement ages have increased over the past decade, which will support the continued availability of the 50 plus workforce. On the flip side, employers are still having difficulties filling jobs. We know that the skills gap is real. 40% of U.S. employers report difficulty filling jobs, whether due to lack of technical skills or professional competencies or a simple lack of candidates. And we've seen this in the news lately here in Maine with the Maine Department of Labor statistics showing that postings are an all-time high, but many of the jobs are not being filled. The costs are less than you think. The traditional mantra you hear is that an older workforce is absolutely a more expensive workforce, but this is not necessarily the case. The business case report addresses this misconception that older workers cost significantly more. Changes in rewards and compensation programs over the past decade have weakened the relationship between labor costs and age. These changes mean that hiring and retaining more older workers won't necessarily increase costs, and if they do, the increase in costs will be minimal. Compensation is increasingly tied to performance rather than just tenure. 90% of large companies based compensation at least in part on performance in 2012, and it increased from 80% in 2002. So we're seeing a real shift there. We also know about the shift from defined benefit to defined contribution plans, and although this can negatively impact financial security for workers, it does change the retirement cost equation for companies. And employer-paid health costs are growing more slowly for 50-plus workers. From 2003 to 2011, employer claims costs rose by 8% for workers aged 35 to 39, compared to just 5.7% for workers aged 55 to 59. There's also a value. Workers aged 50 plus add value to organizations due to their high levels of engagement, stability, productivity, and experience. They are a critical component of a multi-generational workforce. And on the cost side, recent trends in compensation and benefits have diminished the relationship between age and labor costs to the point that age is no longer a significant factor. So this is part of the Aon Hewitt report, the statistics that I shared today, and also come from multiple research articles on the topic as well. So it turns out age isn't just a number. So just some survey results from 2014 of more than 700 employers nationwide revealed the following beliefs regarding the value of older workers. And we can see a real shift here. Workers as a valuable resource for training and mentoring, and because we know we always need to be thinking about the next generation of talent and the future of our organization, that institutional knowledge, the experience and life experience that comes with having been in the workforce and having had multiple types of opportunities, the reliability and dependability factor, and then the ability to problem solve. So employers are starting to recognize the value of this workforce as part of a multi-generational workforce. We talked about reliability. I like this saying, every day is bring your commitment to work day. The business case also found that engagement most definitely pays off. Engagement, as defined by Aon Hewitt, is the, quote, emotional and intellectual involvement that motivates employees to do their best work and contribute to an organization's success. And we see with the 50-plus segment that they are the most engaged group. 65% of employees age 55-plus are considered engaged. 58 to 60% of younger employees are considered engaged. So those numbers aren't that much smaller for under 55, but still shows that you've got high engagement levels at the 55 plus, for people 55 plus. The level of employee engagement has implications for both retention and business results. 65% of employees age 55 plus in large companies, oh, I'm sorry, I just shared that data. 81% of workers age 55 plus are motivated, meaning they say that they exert extra effort and contribute more than is normally required in their job, compared to 77% of younger workers. Business or work units that scored in the top quartile on employee engagement are 21% more productive, have 22% higher profitability, and experience 37% less absenteeism when compared to those in the bottom quartile. So I know I'm sharing a lot of numbers, but the key here is that engagement pays off long term for companies. So this is just a sample of the findings from a business case for workers age 50 plus. The complete report is available for download in the console and also on our website that I'll talk a little bit more, that is focused specifically for employers. Staying power. Similar in the area of reliability, the 50 plus are sticking around, and not just because they have to. 45% of workers 45 plus expect to retire at 65 or younger, compared to 62% in 2004. So folks are seeing retirement at a later age. 71% of workers 45 plus report enjoying the job as a major factor in their decision to work, second only to financial decisions. So a lot of folks continue to get meaning out of the work that they're doing. And retaining older workers reduces the one-time cost of turnover that can go as high as $31,700 or more per employee. In fact, unexpected turnover may cost 1.5 to 2 times more than expected turnover. So there's a lot of data that shows that older workers can bring value to your organization's bottom line. But to recruit them and retain them for your workforce, you have to know how to attract them. 2 years ago, we released some research entitled Staying Ahead of the Curve, AARP Multicultural Work and Career Study. We surveyed just over 1,500 adults nationwide between the ages of 45 and 74 who are still working or looking for work. We found that finances and fulfillment are top reasons why older workers continue to work. Needing the money is the most commonly selected factor for working. But not far behind is that older workers enjoy working. Finances pop up next. 89% said they want to save more for retirement. But then we go right back to fulfillment. 83% said working makes me feel useful. So you can see the range of reasons why folks do continue to work on the slide. What's important to older workers? They want a flexible workplace, need the money we talked about. They say a 401k is essential. Folks are thinking about planning for retirement and saving. They're working to support families. And some have taken time off for caregiving, which is becoming a growing issue. And often we find, and I hear this when I talk to folks who continue to work here in Maine, health insurance. And that, because health insurance and health issues can be so costly, access to health insurance through an employer is becoming increasingly more important to folks as they're looking for work and as they're staying in the workforce longer because of the bridge to Medicare at age 65. So now I'm going to shift to Maine and a little bit about what is happening here more specifically, as well as profiling a company in Maine who is an early embracer of 50-plus workers. Here in Maine, just over 230,000 AARP members 50-plus. Maine is the oldest state. Our median age is approximately 43. And in workplace circles, 43 is considered old. 39% work full or part-time, and 9% are self-employed. This isn't a surprise in a state that is such a small business entrepreneurial state. In fact, since the Great Recession, the largest growing age group of people who are self-employed are age 55 to 64. So some are choosing to make a change, others were laid off or let go and have decided to go into business for themselves. In Maine, the programs we're engaged in is promoting our Work Reimagined site, which is a relationship we have with LinkedIn to connect people looking for work to companies who take a pledge to value 50-plus workers or to hire 50-plus workers. We work with the Small Business Administration and others to support Encore entrepreneurs, this group who I mentioned that are self-employed. We do employer outreach through opportunities like this, and we also get a lot of questions from individuals who are searching for jobs or looking to gain additional skills, and we provide employee support as we can. I mentioned the Small Business Administration. We also partner at the local and state with the local and state chambers and have been working closely on workforce issues with a group covering lots of different demographic populations, including immigrants and disengaged youth through the state chamber, working with the Maine Development Foundation. We've collaborated with CEI and also with the Society for Human Resource Management in Maine. They've been a great partner with us nationally as well. And now we're going to profile an employer in Maine who has really embraced the 50-plus workforce, and that's Chimbro Corporation. They are a former winner of AARP's Best Employers Program for people 50-plus. This award was created in 2001 and has been awarded to companies such as Scripps Health, Cornell, and LL Bean is also a Maine winner. This was really to highlight and profile and really start to connect with employers who were innovative when it came to thinking about the 50-plus workforce, trying to get ahead of the issues and be doing employer outreach as we start to see the shift in generations and in workforce. The program examined organizations that offered policies and practices that appealed to 50-plus workers, like flexible work options, training, and competitive benefits. And the last few years of the program, we partnered with the Society for Human Resource Management as well, and it's great to see that Maine has been represented in this national award. So let's talk a little bit about Chimbro. Just shares a little bit about their workforce. 34% of their employees are age 50-plus, and the average tenure of employees in that age group is 15 and a half years. So that's some pretty serious longevity, given the shifts in labor force and workforce and how often people move around. So what really stood out for AARP where Chimbro was concerned? First was recruiting. They use senior placement agencies to target mature workers and retirees, so they were actively looking to hire mature workers and folks who are retired who might be looking to get back to work. In addition, the company has an individual who works with the Maine Older Workers Committee to recruit mature employees. So they again, we're proactive in building a multi-generational workforce. On the workplace culture side, learning and development opportunities for employees working 20-plus hours per week include tuition reimbursement, in-house classroom training, online training, certification classes, and reimbursement of professional membership dues. So they were really looking to build opportunities for their workforce. The Chimbro Institute utilizes a nationally recognized curriculum where selected programs are delivered within the organization and provide college credit to their team members. And in a recent 12-month period, 90% of employees participated in at least one of the training opportunities, with an average of 26 hours spent in training. So that's pretty remarkable. So the employees have opportunities to gain new experiences by working on temporary assignments in other departments, on team projects, and by having access to formal job rotation and mentoring programs. And as someone who's had these kind of opportunities, I've found it's a wonderful way not to get complacent in your current role and always be learning new things. So it really does build a continued learning environment. On the benefits side, on the health side, employees working 20-plus hours per week are eligible for individual and family medical coverage, prescription drug coverage, vision and dental, and short-term disability. Flexible spending accounts are available to assist with out-of-pocket health care costs. They're offered, the full and part-time employees are offered health screenings, health risk appraisals, smoking cessation, physical activity and weight loss programs, a personal health coach, and stress management training. So employees really feel valued. They see that the company is making an investment in them. And there are also employee assistance program services for full and part-time employees as well as their family members. And then also on the financial side, employees working 20-plus hours per week are eligible for a 401k and profit sharing. And all new hires are automatically enrolled in the 401k. And research is very clear that if you automatic enroll employees with an option for opt-out, they're much more likely to stay enrolled and actually save for their retirement. Employees may choose to invest in life cycle funds that reallocate assets based on age or proximity to retirement. Financial planning information and training is provided to employees. And employees working plus hours per week are offered referral services to assist with child care, grandchild and elder care, and backup care for child care and elder care. So lots of different financial benefits for employees. And on the retirement opportunity side, Chimbro stays connected with its retirees by communicating with them, inviting them to events, and providing them with ongoing access to retirement planning workshops and information. So you still feel, even when you retire, that you're part of the Chimbro family. There's an annual turkey trot that provides retirees with a personal visit from the company and a turkey for Thanksgiving. And work arrangements offered to retirees include consulting, telecommuting, and some part-time work if they realize once they retire that they're really not ready to retire completely. So a nice profile of Chimbro and the investments they've made. And if you talk to Chimbro officials, they will tell you that it's really paid off. And this isn't just a 50-plus workforce, but what they've built is a multi-generational workforce. And more studies are showing that these are the best types, this type of workforce is the best for long-term productivity and growth. And a little bit more on Maine, we have a variety of industries. Aging workforce impacts vary considerably depending on the type of job. We have more local versus regional focus. We have the urban versus rural geography. We have our city centers, but we also have, we're quite far-flung population, and the rural areas really have their own set of challenges. So you can't really look at Maine as just with one set of characteristics. And we are seeing some sophisticated talent management practices. And if you attend the Maine HR convention, you see just the breadth of employers and how we're really, and the kinds of industries and just the range, but how different it can be in Portland versus northern Maine, for example. So taking that into account and the opportunities and challenges that come with our demographics. So how do we leverage Maine's aging workforce? Here's just some advice to get started. As we saw with Chimbro, it shouldn't be an afterthought. Companies and organizations should be looked to recruit mature workers intentionally. So you can include mature workers in your messaging and watch your language when you're recruiting. You can identify talent sources that include older adults. You can post jobs and locations that mature workers look, like retirementjobs.com or Senior Job Bank. You can get recognized in publicity as an employer of mature workers. And I will talk in a little bit about the pledge that we have and a little bit more with our relationship with LinkedIn. You can keep a database of retiree skills, and you can encourage employees to suggest candidates and ensure that your current employees know that you are very open and proactively looking for people of all ages to recruit. Second, you can create a culture that is multi-generational friendly. You can train managers and supervisors to reinforce the value of older workers and create a climate that welcomes and respects them. Some research that has been done out of the University of Maine has found that often in Maine, people over 50 don't feel well respected in the workplace. So it's something I think we can all work on. You can conduct focus groups with the mature workers that you do have on staff to learn what they value. And then ask, what behaviors would you see in your organization if it was ideally effective in supporting mature workers? Third, you can offer flexible work options. This is a program, not a policy. You can offer flexible scheduling of hours, such as a compressed work week, or have flexibility in a given location, so telecommuting options. You can look at phased retirement for folks who aren't ready to fully leave the workforce and may be great mentors for folks you are bringing in. And you can also rehire retirees part-time. Some additional ways to leverage the workforce, investing in training, career paths, and new roles. So training investments build loyalty. I think we see that with Chimbro. It's also important to respect different learning styles of mature workers. And it's not just with mature workers, but we know if you've ever done Personalis or some of the other tools, that people work differently. And so respecting that and looking at how to bring people together that pull on different strengths. Often there can be a lack of confidence regarding technology skills, and so looking for opportunities to build confidence and offer employees who may need to brush up on some of their technology skills those opportunities. At Central Baptist Hospital, they hire a retired nurse to coach nurses on development goals and careers. So they actually bring someone back from the industry to help employees think about what their goals will be and what their career will look like in the future. So there really are ways to start to look at training and career paths and new roles for employees. And it's being willing to put some programs into place and take the time to do that and have those conversations and invest that time with staff. It's also important to facilitate knowledge transfer. Identify the most critical jobs in your organization and what would happen if the person who's been there was no longer there. Invest in the building of mentoring skills. As someone who mentors myself, I find I hope my mentees get a lot out of it, but I find every time I mentor someone, I learn something too, and that I get something out of it. Reassure mature workers aren't teaching their way aren't being taught teaching their way out of the job. Mentoring really is an evolving practice. Structure knowledge with a skill development plan. So look at the needs that you see down the road. Look at the composition of the workforce and say, where are we going to need to focus our time? When I met with folks in HR at LL Bean, they can tell you the name of their oldest employee in age and the youngest employee in age, and they are constantly looking at changing needs and how their workforce can help them deliver on their goals. And so it really is investing in being aware of what the workforce looks like and where that skill development will need to come in. And then also fostering strong social networks. People stay where their friends are. Small work teams foster loyalty. And it's also important to be aware of generational gaps and do what you can to ensure a multi-generational approach and that you don't end up with teams that are very much generationally focused. Also, supporting activities that create social community in the workplace, enhancing links to the broader community, and supporting an alumni community. And so how do you keep people feeling connected even once they may have retired from the organization? And this is one of the things we see with Central Maine Power here in Maine, is that they have a robust retiree network that gets together and still feels part of that family. So a few more tips. Consider using retired employees as a just-in-time workforce. Keep them in mind for short-term needs, especially because you will have a sense of who they are, their commitment, and it can be easy to bring them on, especially if they know those opportunities exist. Don't be afraid to hire the long-term unemployed, and I will talk a little bit more about that in a moment. But especially for people over 50, post-Great Recession, this age group had the hardest time getting back into the workforce. And many folks were constantly looking and really wanted to be working, but just couldn't get back in. So you will have highly skilled people who want to be working who may just have had difficulty finding a job. So don't dismiss them outright. Share a business case and some of the data that I've shared with you today with management and colleagues, and start having those conversations if you're not already. Start thinking about that planning and looking to the future. And then I mentioned the AARP Employer Pledge. Sign the pledge if you're interested. What we do is highlight those companies that do sign the pledge to say that, yes, we are open and willing to hire people over 50. And through the platform of Work Reimagined, there are many companies listed, big employers that are nationwide, but state-by-state employers as well, who have said, absolutely, we're open to hiring people over 50. And this is a way for people who are looking for jobs who are over 50 to connect to those opportunities. So if you're serious about and committed to this, feel free to sign the pledge. So a note on the long-term unemployed. They are a potential source of skilled talent. There's a major initiative by the White House, the Rockefeller Foundation, and Deloitte to address this issue. Companies that hire the long-term unemployed experience higher retention rates and greater workforce loyalty. They possess the skills that can add value to your organization. Deloitte and the Rockefeller Foundation developed a guide to recruiting and hiring the long-term unemployed. It's available on our AARP Resource Center, and you'll see that in a moment. This is one of the places where we're really trying to be a bridge between experienced job seekers and employers. Because there are folks who are still looking, who would love to be back in the workplace. So in our employer resource, you can explore Resource Center. You can explore a range of employer resources on benchmarking, solutions for working caregivers, the pledge, and just more general information. I also want to mention in the time that I was preparing for this webinar, we released a new report on the business case for family caregiver policies. This was a collaboration with REACT, which is Respect a Caregiver's Time, and these are companies. It's an employer-focused coalition that's dedicated to addressing the challenges faced by employee caregivers. Here in Maine, 178,000 people are providing unpaid care. These are family caregivers to loved ones. These caregivers save the state about $2.3 billion a year in unpaid care. So they are doing a lot, and in most cases, it's a true labor of love. But with the aging of the boomers and the number of people who are working and caring for loved ones, this can have a real impact on caregivers, especially in the workforce. So there is new data, a business case for family caregiver policies, that shows that there is a positive return on investment when companies develop policies for employees to support their caregiving needs. And the investment is really worth it. So for every dollar invested in flex time, for example, businesses can expect a return of between $1.70 and $4.34. And for every dollar invested in telecommuting options, between $2.46 and $4.45. So companies can, if not, they don't already, implement flexible work options that will keep their employees engaged, but give them that flexibility to take care of a loved one so that they can continue to work. Because we often see folks leaving the workforce to care for loved ones, and then they find it, because they're typically over 50, difficult to get back in. So I just wanted to mention that report, and with that we can go to questions or
Sure. Thank you so much, Lorrie. That's really interesting, and hear the return on investment that was realized from that study, and just pays to invest in people's quality of life.
Right.
Yeah. That's so. At this time, if anybody is interested in putting a question in the chat box, I can certainly relay those questions to Lorrie, and we'll start our Q&A right now. So. I noticed one thing, Lorrie, while you were speaking, that it was kind of surprising to hear, I felt anyway, that the health claims grew at a slower rate for the 50-plus workers as opposed to like the 30 to 39 aged workers. So what do you attribute to that, and isn't that a specific concern that employers have for hiring older workers?
It is a concern. I think sometimes there's just an assumption because you're older, you're going to have more health issues. And we do know that as people get older, there's more of a likelihood for chronic conditions. But I also think we're seeing more companies invest in prevention and wellness programs that are paying off. So when you think about smoking cessation and some of the other benefits that are being implemented or have been implemented over the last many years, we see that folks are taking advantage of those, and so through that investment, claims costs are going down.
Interesting. Okay. And so what do you think is the biggest challenge that older workers face in today's job market? Is it technology or ageism, or what's the hardest thing for the 50-plus worker?
So we've done some polling here in Maine, and a good majority of workers over 50 in Maine have felt they've been discriminated against in the workforce. Age discrimination is very hard to prove, and a Supreme Court decision a few years ago a U.S. Supreme Court decision made it even more difficult to in essence to get to make a case for age discrimination. But I had a volunteer who said, in IT, and we know IT is a sector that people really are looking for workers.
Okay.
And he left the state of Maine and ended up going to Connecticut to find work. And he said to me, and granted this is one story, but I was ready to dye my beard because it was gray. So I know for people over 50, there really is a feeling that because of their age, they can't get hired. And that's why we really are focused on the employer education piece, because if you look at the data, it's very positive. I think your question about the skills gap, that is an area where we're seeing folks who don't have the skills. I see it even when I have hired people younger than, 10 years younger than me from a social media and technology perspective, what they're doing because of how they've grown up, just that 10-year age difference. So, but what we're seeing with the data is that if you're willing to bring someone on who has a range of skills, who's very reliable, who has a great work history, but you're willing to offer them a class in a specific, whether it's Excel is not the best example, but if you give them that class, they will embrace it, they will learn, and they will get the skills they need to stay competitive.
Yeah, and it's usually not a long time to do that.
Right.
Yeah, okay. And so resources for that advanced learning and training are places like the AARP website. Are there any other resources where you would point employers to go for that kind of training?
I would think the Society for Human Resource Management would be another good place to go, because SHRM has definitely recognized that there's a need to focus and invest in a 50-plus workforce if you look at the demographics across the country. Yeah. And so I think they'd be another great resource.
That makes sense. Mm-hmm. Okay. Let's see here. What do you attribute to the fact that Maine has a challenge filling jobs while older workers cannot find work? Is there a prejudice, or is it just an uneducated pool of hiring managers, or is there a need on both sides that's not meeting up in the middle?
I find it really curious, and it's one of the reasons why we've collaborated and had many conversations with Maine Development Foundation and the State Chamber, because they put out a workforce report and looking at all of the different populations, so 50-plus workers, the immigrant population, and clearly there can be language issues there, displaced youth, but you look at where is the disconnect? How do we get people together? And that's so as people come to us, because folks do come to us looking for jobs. We're not a placement agency, but we at least try to get them to the right place, or say, maybe you need to work on your resume. Do you have a LinkedIn account? Many people over 50 haven't done LinkedIn. It's really important these days. And so I don't really know what the answer is, but there clearly is a disconnect. And so the more I think we can get through this LinkedIn site that we have, I have a dream of the Maine version of that, but just making sure that the word is out there. And also because I do still believe that while there are those who are investing and see the value, that not everyone has seen the numbers and understands the value of a multi-generational workforce. And then also it may be that you have an immediate need and you don't feel that you have the time to train someone, so that can be an issue too.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Okay. Many of the strategies that you mentioned could apply, I would think, to recruiting volunteers. Have you had any experience in applying those strategies to volunteer organizations for the purpose of recruiting new volunteers?
Well, it depends on whether or not you pay your volunteers. So most organizations aren't paying their volunteers. You've got the Service Corps programs, AmeriCorps, Senior Corps, that provide a stipend and offer opportunities. But you can do, having recruited volunteers for AARP, there's a lot you can do to engage people and motivate them and recognize them and offer, make sure they know that they are appreciated. But this is, there's kind of the difference between paid employment and volunteer opportunities.
Going back to the disconnect a little bit, where do you find that job placement agencies fall into this whole issue? Are they supportive and helping the older worker? Do they have a prejudice themselves? Do they side more towards the younger worker?
I would say it probably depends where you go, but when folks look at the median age in Maine, more and more, I'm talking with employers who are starting to see whether they like it or not, they don't have a choice. And so I think we're not only seeing the shift on the employer side, but on the placement side too, as people are looking. This is the pool. And so how do you get, let's be honest, great data on the value of hiring 50-plus workers. There are always going to be those folks that, are always thinking about the golf course or whatever. You're always going to have those individuals that don't work out just right for you.
At any
but
age.
You could say that at any age.
Right.
And I thought where the question was going on volunteerism was these look like policies that would be great for people of all ages. That's absolutely the case. As someone who works for an organization that has very long longevity, we have folks who've been with AARP 20, 30 years, but we also have a multi-generational workforce. Policies that are good for a young person raising a child are good for someone who's caring for an aging parent. And across the board, and I think you see that with the results from Chimbro, engaged employees are happier employees. Investing in education and training pays off. You also get the commitment to the workforce, to the workplace, which impacts turnover. It all just starts to add up. And so taking that view that an investment in these policies isn't just good for an aging workforce, it's good long-term. The boomers are going to continue to age out. The millennials are the second largest group behind the boomers. So investing in these policies now will just help long-term.
Makes perfect sense. It really does. Are there any specific industries that you see that are more willing to hire a 50-plus age worker?
Not necessarily. It really depends. Your big companies have figured it out. Your AT&Ts, some of the large health systems. A great example of, and especially in the healthcare sector, where there's a real concern about nurses and physicians. There's some great programs in place. One of our best employer winners is a hospital system in Florida, in Leesburg, Florida. You have snowbirds who go south in the winter, and they were bringing on people, retired nurses and physicians, part-time to work the months they were in Florida. They brought experience into the practice. These folks were able to give, felt like they were doing something to help out. They got a little, they were paid, so it was part-time work, and it was a great model. So looking at some of those creative ways, especially in healthcare, where we're going to see such a need, and we already have such a shortage, for example, of RNs and nurses, and Maine geriatric physicians, this could be a real opportunity.
Makes sense. Well, thank you so much. Great, rich, robust presentation. And I would like to remind everybody to please fill out the survey. And thank you for joining us today. And it will be available on our website. So, but feel free to email me if you need to with any questions. So thanks again and have a wonderful afternoon.